My name is Victoria Pierce, 34 years old, and until 3 weeks ago, I was the Executive Vice President of Pierce Global Trading in Portland, Oregon. The conference room door had barely closed when my sister's voice cut through the tension like a knife through silk. "We can't keep dragging dead weight, Victoria." Natalie, 27, fresh from her MBA at Stanford, her diamond tennis bracelet catching the light from the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Willamette River, didn't even look at me when she said it. She pointed to the quarterly report spread across the mahogany table. "Your division needs to go. Clear out your office. Today." Our mother, the CEO, sat frozen at the head of the table, her perfectly manicured hands folded on the surface. 6 months earlier, she'd quietly transferred her controlling shares to Natalie, citing succession planning and fresh perspectives. I'd delivered record profits for 9 straight quarters, so nobody questioned the decision until this exact moment. The 4 independent board members kept their eyes locked on their tablets. Not one of them made eye contact with me. I didn't argue, I didn't plead. I stood up, smoothed my blazer, and walked out of that room with my head high. If you've ever been betrayed by your own family in the workplace, if you've ever felt that knife twist between your shoulder blades from someone who shares your blood, please stay with me. Because what happened next, what I'm about to tell you, changes everything. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. The following morning arrived cold and gray, typical Portland weather in late October. I arrived at the office at 6:45 a.m., earlier than usual. My badge still worked. The executive elevator still recognized my credentials. I rode up to the 19th floor in complete silence, watching the city lights blink awake through the glass walls. The doors opened with a quiet whisper, and the motion sensors illuminated the hallway leading to my corner suite. My assistant, Marcus, was already there. He'd been with me for 8 years, through every deal, every crisis, every triumph. He stood by the window, a paper coffee cup in one hand, his phone in the other. When he heard me enter, he turned around. "Victoria, this is insane. You built the entire Asia-Pacific division from nothing. 47% of the company's international revenue comes directly from contracts you negotiated personally. Natalie can't just erase a decade of relationship building with a single board vote." I didn't answer right away. I walked past the reception area, past the contemporary artwork I'd selected myself, past the shelves holding awards and recognition plaques. At the far wall behind my desk, there was a panel that looked like decorative woodwork. I pressed my palm against the biometric scanner hidden in the grain. A soft click. The panel slid to the side, revealing a compact wall safe. Inside that safe was a single item. A thick leather portfolio, edges worn from years of handling, my initials embossed in gold on the front. I lifted it out carefully and placed it on my desk. Marcus moved closer, curiosity replacing concern on his face. "VP International Consulting Group," I said, opening the portfolio to reveal incorporation documents dated exactly 5 years earlier. I created this entity as a separate legal structure specifically for handling contracts that cross multiple international jurisdictions. Every major agreement we've signed in the past 5 years, every flagship client relationship, explicitly names this company as the contracting party. It's designed for tax efficiency, liability protection, and operational flexibility. Marcus leaned over the desk, scanning the dense legal language, the signatures, the official stamps. The board approved all of these amendments. I remember the meetings. They were so focused on the tax benefits and the liability shields that they never questioned who actually controlled the entity. I turned to a summary page I'd updated just last week. 31 active contracts. Combined annual revenue of $42.6 million. Year-over-year growth rate of 11.8% across the last 8 consecutive quarters. Client roster reading like a who's who of international manufacturing and distribution. Marcus let out a low whistle. That's more than half the company's profit margin. Correct, I said. I closed the portfolio, slipped it into my briefcase, a sleek leather case I'd brought specifically for this purpose, and locked the brass clasps with 2 satisfying clicks. And as of this morning, that profit margin answers to new management. He walked to the window, hands in his pockets, watching the morning traffic build on the bridges crossing the river. The renewal cycle starts in 60 days. Tanaka Industries, Bremen Logistics, the entire Singapore distribution network, they all require your personal sign-off. They won't renew without direct confirmation from you. They'll receive direct confirmation, I said. I spun the safe dial until it locked, then pocketed the override key. Same service, same expertise, different corporate letterhead. Marcus turned back to face me. You're activating the contingency plan. The contingency plan activated the moment Mom transferred control to Natalie 6 months ago. I retrieved my coat from the hook near the door. I just built the exit ramp in advance. He nodded slowly, understanding settling over his features. The exit ramp is now open for traffic. I checked my watch. 7:18 a.m. Tell building services I'll be completely moved out by noon. No boxes, no moving company, just this briefcase. Marcus paused at the doorway. Victoria, your parents don't negotiate container shipping rates or customs clearance protocols, I said, moving past him into the hallway. Clients do. The elevator arrived within seconds. I pressed the button for the parking garage. The descent was smooth, undisturbed. At the lobby level, the security guard waved without asking for my badge. I crossed the climate-controlled plaza, descended into the underground parking structure, and found my car in its designated spot, P19. I placed the briefcase on the passenger seat, started the engine, and backed out slowly. The camera showed nothing behind me. I wound my way up through the levels, emerged into the overcast morning, and merged onto Naito Parkway. The Willamette River flowed to my right, dark and steady, moving toward the Columbia and eventually the ocean. I had spent 10 years building the infrastructure that kept Pierce Global Trading profitable and relevant in international markets. Now that infrastructure belonged entirely to me. I pressed the accelerator and headed west toward the hills, watching the downtown skyline shrink in my rearview mirror. That same afternoon, around 3:30 p.m., I was driving south on I-5 when my phone rang through the car's audio system. Office landline, forwarded automatically. I touched the answer button on the steering wheel, keeping my eyes on the road. Victoria Pierce. Victoria, it's David Tanaka. His voice carried the distinctive echo of a warehouse facility, forklifts beeping in the background, voices calling out in Japanese and English. I just received an email from Natalie claiming she's the new point of contact for our master agreement. We're 45 days from renewal. Our entire West Coast distribution depends on your customs optimization protocols. What exactly is happening here? She'll figure it out eventually, I said calmly. David made a sound somewhere between disbelief and frustration. The contract isn't with Pierce Global Trading, it's with VP International. Exactly. Send me the renewal documents. I'll have them countersigned and returned by end of day tomorrow. Sending now. The line went dead. I maintained my speed, hands steady at 10 and 2. 11 minutes passed. My personal cell phone buzzed in the cup holder. Caller ID showed Mom's direct line. I answered. Hello, Mother. Victoria Jane Pierce. Natalie's voice, not Mom's, sharp and rising. David Tanaka is refusing to sign anything without the original contract administrator. What did you do? I changed lanes, signaling well in advance. 5 years ago, I restructured our entire international framework. VP International functions as the dedicated contracting entity. It's a separate legal structure designed for tax optimization and liability management. Dad and Mom both reviewed every document. They understood it as standard business practice. Nobody anticipated that the entity could operate independently of the parent company. You can't just... I ended the call. I took the next exit, looped back north, and within 20 minutes I was pulling into the visitor parking garage of our building. I took the elevator to 19. The hallway was empty, fluorescent lights humming overhead. I used my keycard one last time. The office door opened. My nameplate was still mounted on the wall. Victoria Pierce, Executive Vice President, International Division. I pulled a small screwdriver from my desk drawer, removed the 4 screws holding the nameplate in place, and let it drop into the recycling bin with a metallic clatter. I powered down my desktop computer and initiated the secure data wipe. The progress bar crawled across the screen. When it finished, I disconnected the monitor and keyboard. Final sweep of the space. Filing cabinets empty, whiteboard clean, personal items already removed. I stepped back into the corridor and pulled the door shut. The electronic lock engaged with a solid click. Back in the garage, I started the engine, reversed out of P19, and drove down the spiral ramp toward the exit. The barrier lifted automatically. I headed west again, this time toward my house in the West Hills, the skyline disappearing behind me. 4 days later, Monday evening at 7:15 p.m. The doorbell camera on my phone showed the first car pulling into my driveway. I opened the door to find Marcus standing there, flanked by 7 others, all carrying laptop bags and rolled blueprints. "Core team assembled," Marcus said as they filed inside. "Non-compete clauses only cover Oregon clients. California and Washington are completely open territory." I led them through the entryway into the living room. I'd pushed the furniture back and arranged 10 folding chairs around the coffee table. Marcus handled quick introductions. 4 operations managers, 2 financial analysts, 1 compliance attorney. All had submitted their resignations that morning at Pierce Global Trading, effective immediately. Jennifer, my college roommate, who'd become a corporate attorney specializing in international trade law, arrived last. She was wheeling a slim aluminum case filled with fresh contract templates and incorporation documents. We all took seats. I connected my laptop to the television mounted on the wall and opened my VP International presentation deck. "The objective is simple," I said. "Prove the model works at scale without the Pierce family name attached." I clicked to the first slide showing 2 pilot facilities, one in Sacramento, one in Seattle. Combined square footage of 800,000. 12-month lease agreements with purchase options at fair market value. Jennifer handed out stapled packets. Both landlords are pre-qualified. Lease rates locked at 18% below market comparables. Contingent on immediate occupancy and our capital improvements. Marcus flipped through the equipment list. Warehouse management systems, customs brokerage software, logistics optimization platforms. Everything we need is already budgeted. An operations manager raised her hand. "The proprietary routing algorithms and customs databases?" "Already migrated to private cloud infrastructure," I said. "Access credentials will be issued on your first day." Jennifer opened a second folder. Compensation packages. Base salary increased by 20% across the board. 2% equity, fully diluted, granted immediately. 4-year vesting schedule with full acceleration upon acquisition, or IPO. The compliance attorney scanned the benefits summary. Medical, dental, vision, 401k matching. Effective date 1. Same carriers as Pierce Global. Upgraded plans. 7% match instead of 4. Marcus leaned forward. Timeline to operational status? Occupancy within 30 days. First client shipments within 60 days. A brief silence settled over the room. Then, one by one, everyone nodded. Jennifer produced a stack of blue pens. Operating agreement first, then individual offer letters. I signed the cover page, dated it, and passed it clockwise. 8 signatures followed, each person taking their time, making it official. Marcus capped his pen last. "We're live." Jennifer gathered the executed documents. "Filing with Oregon Secretary of State tonight. Amended operating agreement will be processed by morning." I distributed the pre-printed offer letters, each one personalized with names, titles, and compensation figures. Every team member reviewed their letter, initialed the acceptance line, signed, and dated. We shook hands around the circle, firm grips, committed eyes. By 9:30 p.m., everyone had left. Taillights disappeared down the hill. I locked the door, poured myself a glass of water, and spread the signed documents across the dining table. Phase 1. Complete. 8 days later, Wednesday at 10 a.m., my laptop chimed with an incoming video call. Marcus appeared on screen, sitting at his home office desk, bookshelves lined with binders behind him. "Victoria, the board just scheduled an emergency meeting for noon today. You're the only item on the agenda. Employment status clarification. They want you in the conference room." I muted the live feed from the Sacramento facility that was streaming on my second monitor, declined the invitation. "My schedule is blocked." He leaned closer to the camera. "Your mother is chairing the meeting. All 4 independent directors are demanding a full explanation. Understood." I ended the video call. 5 seconds later, my home phone rang. Caller ID, Mom's cell. I let it ring 4 times before picking up. "Hello? Victoria, darling." Catherine Pierce's voice carried that smooth, controlled tone she reserved for charity galas and media interviews. "Your father and I need you to come downtown and discuss this situation. Not as a former executive, as our daughter." I watched the cursor blinking in the lease amendment document I had open on my screen, waiting for my final edits on the insurance provision. "Please tell them I'm engaged in critical contract negotiations. I can't break away." I declined the calendar invitation on my phone. Catherine paused, and I could hear the tension in the silence. "He's worried, Victoria. We both are. Family should come before business contracts." The Sacramento landlord sent a message in the chat window, ready to proceed with final revisions. I typed back, "Confirmed." Move to Section 11, Indemnification Language. "Family doesn't retroactively erase 10 years of documented revenue generation with a single vote," I said, keeping my voice level. "I have a hard stop in 5 minutes." She exhaled softly. "Victoria, please." I placed the phone back in its cradle, switched it to Do Not Disturb, and rejoined the video conference with Sacramento. "Apologies for the interruption," I said to the grid of 9 participants. Marcus, Jennifer, 3 site supervisors, 2 equipment vendors, 2 local attorneys. "Let's finalize the 1.2 million square foot expansion package." Marcus screen shared the updated financial model. Phased capital expenditures over 24 months, projected internal rate of return exceeding 19%, sensitivity analysis accounting for fuel cost volatility and labor rate fluctuations. Jennifer scrolled through the tax incentive rider. Economic Development Authority confirmed the 15-year property tax abatement. 80% reduction year 1, stepping down 5% annually. One of the vendors asked about power infrastructure, dual utility feeds, redundant transformer capacity, uninterruptible power supply for all automated systems, I confirmed. We moved through the presentation slide by slide. Target occupancy dates, revenue recognition schedules, positive cash flow projections by month 9. By 11:47 a.m., the agreement was finalized. Jennifer created electronic signature packets and distributed them to all parties. Signatures arrived in sequence. Landlord entity, VP International Consulting Group, utility provider, equipment vendors, deal closed. I shut down my laptop at 11:52 a.m. The board meeting would be starting in 8 minutes. My phone showed 0 missed calls from the office. Dad's cell showed no new messages. Phase 2, fully funded and operational. The rest of that afternoon unfolded in carefully orchestrated silence. I worked from my home office, a converted bedroom with windows overlooking the West Hills and the forest beyond. The trees were turning, autumn colors bleeding through the evergreens. I had 3 more video conferences scheduled that day. One with a Seattle-based equipment manufacturer about warehouse automation systems. One with a customs brokerage firm in Los Angeles about streamlining documentation processes. One with a potential client in Vancouver who was looking to expand their distribution footprint into the United States. Each meeting went smoothly, professional, focused. Nobody mentioned Pierce Global Trading. Nobody asked about my family. They knew me as Victoria Pierce, founder and CEO of VP International Consulting Group. That was enough. Around 4:30 p.m., Marcus sent me a text message. Board meeting lasted 73 minutes. 3 directors walked out looking confused. Your mother left without speaking to anyone. Natalie was on her phone in the parking garage looking upset. No official statement released. I didn't respond immediately. I finished reviewing a contract amendment for a client in Boise, made my edits and tracked changes, and sent it back to their legal team. Then I typed, "Noted, focus on Sacramento move-in timeline. Equipment delivery confirmed for next Tuesday?" His reply came fast, "Confirmed. Site supervisor starts Monday. WMS installation scheduled for Wednesday through Friday." I set my phone face down on the desk and returned to work. The silence from Pierce Global Trading was louder than any phone call could have been. They were realizing slowly what had actually happened. The framework I'd built wasn't just a clever tax structure. It was a complete operational separation. Every major client relationship, every proprietary algorithm, every optimization protocol, every customs clearance pathway, all of it lived inside VP International. The Pierce Global Trading name was on the building, but the value, the real sustainable profit-generating machinery, had walked out the door with me. 5 weeks later, Friday at 1 p.m., the Pacific Northwest Trade Summit filled the Portland Convention Center Grand Ballroom with over 600 supply chain executives. Badge lanyards hung around necks, coffee cups in hand, the energy of commerce filling the air. I stepped onto the main stage beneath a massive banner reading VP International Consulting Group in deep blue and silver. Not a trace of Pierce Global Trading anywhere. David Tanaka had delivered my introduction 7 minutes earlier, speaking in his calm, measured corporate voice as Vice President of Tanaka Industries. Zero mention of my family's company. I advanced the remote to my opening slide. Tanaka Industries Global Partnership. $53 million 5-year master services agreement. My voice carried clearly through the sound system. VP International designated as exclusive logistics provider and customs optimization specialist for 42 distribution nodes across North America and East Asia. Projected annual volume, 68 million units processed. Fixed rate structure with performance bonuses tied to on-time delivery and damage-free handling. The next slide displayed a world map with 42 red pins stretching from Vancouver to Singapore, from Los Angeles to Tokyo. Phase 1 activation, 3. 1 million square feet operational by second quarter. Full international footprint live by fourth quarter next year. Genuine applause spread through the ballroom. Phones came out, cameras pointed at the stage. David walked up the steps to join me, a thick contract binder under his arm. We positioned ourselves at the signing table, which was draped in black fabric. 2 pens, his corporate blue, mine executive black, moved in synchronized motion across the signature blocks. The notary pressed her embossed seal beside each line. $53 million. Committed. We posed for the official photographer, the traditional handshake and smile, then stepped aside as the moderator announced the next panel. I left the stage through the side entrance and found Marcus waiting in the corridor. He handed me my phone. 17 missed calls in the last 40 minutes. Your mother, your father, Natalie, 3 from the Pierce Global main line, 2 from board members. Silence them all, I said. I'm not available for comment. There's one more thing. He pulled up a news alert on his tablet. Portland Business Journal just published their annual revenue rankings. Pierce Global Trading dropped from number 14 to number 32. The article specifically mentions significant client departures in international logistics. I scanned the article. Carefully worded corporate speak, anonymous industry sources, phrases like market realignment and strategic refocusing. Not a single mention of my name or VP International. They were trying to control the narrative, trying to make it look like planned restructuring rather than catastrophic client loss. Send a copy to Jennifer, I said. She'll want it for the investor materials we're preparing. By 4:30 p.m., I was standing in the new VP International headquarters, 5,000 square feet on the 14th floor of the U.S. Bancorp Tower, floor-to-ceiling windows offering an unobstructed view north toward Mount Hood. Marcus coordinated the IT contractors running fiber optic lines through the raised floor system. Jennifer mounted the freshly issued Oregon LLC certificate in a polished steel frame beside the frosted glass reception desk. I toured the space. 25 workstations with dual monitors, 4 glass-walled conference rooms equipped with video conferencing systems, 1 operations center with 6 large display screens, cycling through real-time shipment tracking and customs clearance status. The vendor list showed Pierce Global Trading in a footnote. Designated overflow carrier, spot market only, no dedicated lanes, no priority status, no master contract. Pure backup support. I pulled up the revenue dashboard. Tanaka Industries contract already showing $4.2 million in monthly recurring revenue, trending upward with seasonal volume increases. Updated financial projections flashed green. Capital recovery by month 5. Targeted EBITDA margin of 31% in year 1, scaling to 36% by year 3. My phone vibrated. Unknown Portland number. I let it go to voicemail, immediately followed by a text from Marcus. Legacy company just submitted RFP for emergency overflow capacity. Rate sheet shows 45% premium over market. I typed back, counter at 60% surcharge. Net 15 terms, payment in advance. His response, thumbs up emoji, followed by a laughing emoji. By 6:15 p.m., the office hummed with controlled intensity. Printers outputting contract amendments, junior analysts running scenario models, compliance officer uploading insurance certificates to state databases. I paused at the corner window. Sunlight reflected off the Willamette River 14 stories below, the water moving steadily northward toward the Columbia. Pierce Global Trading had been reduced to a backup vendor in its own regional market. VP International now controlled the entire value chain. That evening, I drove home through light rain, the kind of persistent Oregon drizzle that never quite becomes a storm. My phone rang twice more. Dad's number both times. I didn't answer. I had nothing to say to him that wouldn't sound like vindication or bitterness, and I refused to give either emotion any oxygen. What I'd done wasn't about hurting them. It was about building something that couldn't be taken away by a single boardroom vote. I pulled into my driveway, parked in the garage, and sat in the silence for a long moment. The house was dark, empty. I'd lived alone since my divorce 3 years earlier. My ex-husband, Andrew, had been a commercial real estate developer. Good man, wrong timing. We'd wanted different things, lived at different speeds. The divorce had been civil, professional, almost businesslike. No kids, clean split, mutual respect. He'd texted me congratulations when he saw the Tanaka announcement online. That was the kind of relationship we had now. Cordial distance. Inside, I poured a glass of wine and sat at the kitchen island. My laptop was still in my bag, but I didn't open it. For the first time in weeks, I let myself just sit, just breathe, just exist without strategizing the next move. The next morning was Saturday. I slept until 8:30, which felt like luxury. No alarm, no early video conferences, no urgent client emails. I made coffee, real coffee from the French press, not the quick pod version I relied on during the week. I took it out onto the back deck and watched the fog lift from the valley below. My phone buzzed once. A text from Jennifer. Press release drafted for Monday. Tanaka partnership announcement. Want a review before we send a PR wire service? I typed back. Send it over. I'll review this afternoon. The weekend passed quietly. I reviewed the press release, made minor edits, approved it. I went for a long run through Forest Park, 8 miles of trails under towering Douglas firs. I meal prepped for the week ahead. I read a novel I'd been meaning to finish for 6 months. I did not think about Pierce Global Trading. I did not think about Natalie or my parents or the board vote. I thought about the next phase, the next contract, the next market we'd enter. Monday morning arrived sharp and clear. I was at the office by 7:15 a.m. The press release went live at 9 a.m. Pacific time. Within an hour, my LinkedIn had 43 new connection requests. Industry publications picked up the story. By noon, 3 different reporters had requested interviews. Marcus poked his head into my office around 1 p.m. Bloomberg Trade just called. They want a feature story on VP International, how we're disrupting traditional logistics models. Schedule it for next month, I said. Let's have 3 more major contracts signed before we do any press tour. He grinned. Playing the long game. The only game worth playing. That afternoon, I had back-to-back meetings with potential clients. A consumer electronics company looking to optimize their import processes from Taiwan and South Korea. A sporting goods distributor wanting to expand into Japanese markets. A specialty food importer struggling with FDA compliance and customs delays. Each one had heard about the Tanaka deal. Each one wanted to know if we could replicate that success for their business. I didn't oversell. I didn't promise miracles. I showed them the data, the process documentation, the before and after metrics from existing clients. I let the numbers speak for themselves. By end of day, 2 of the 3 had requested full proposals. The third wanted to schedule a facility tour of our Sacramento operation once it was fully operational. 3 months later, Wednesday at 1 p.m., I sat in the dining room of the Heathman Hotel, one of Portland's landmark establishments. Crystal chandeliers hung overhead, white linens covered every table, and the afternoon light filtered through tall windows overlooking Broadway. Catherine Pierce rose from a corner booth the moment she saw me approach. She wore a cream-colored suit, pearl earrings catching the light, her hair perfectly styled. "Victoria, thank you for agreeing to meet." She extended both hands across the table. I allowed a brief touch before sliding into the opposite seat. The server poured ice water into crystal glasses without being asked. Lemon slices floated on top. Catherine settled back, napkins spread across her lap. "Your father and I have had extensive discussions. We owe you more than an apology." The board's decision was rash. Natalie acted without understanding the full scope of what you'd built. We should have insisted on proper dialogue before any vote was taken. I rotated my water glass slowly. The vote is recorded in the minutes. Contracts have been reassigned. Apologies don't reverse executed corporate actions. She scanned the elegant room, servers moving gracefully between tables, then lowered her voice. "She's overwhelmed, Victoria. Key accounts are leaving. She's admitted the mistake." The server brought appetizers, seared scallops on small white plates. I cut one precisely. Natalie demanded authority. Authority was granted. Market performance is the natural consequence. Catherine's fingers tightened around her glass. Family legacy isn't measured in quarterly reports. We taught you about loyalty, about tradition, about building something that lasts beyond one generation. I set down my fork, aligned it with my knife. You taught me to create value. I created value. The structure I built exceeded the original vision. She leaned forward, her voice softening. Sunday dinner at the house. Just the four of us. No business talk, no agendas. Just family. I withdrew my hands from the table. I am still a Pierce, Mother. But the Pierce you're looking at isn't the person you remember. Her breath caught, her eyes searching my face for the daughter she thought she knew. I signaled for the check, signed the member slip, and stood. The salmon here is excellent this season. You should try it. I turned and walked across the polished marble floor, past the grand staircase, and out into the gray afternoon light without looking back. That evening, Marcus called me at home. Your mother stayed at the Heathman for another 2 hours after you left. One of our compliance attorneys was there for a different meeting. He said she just sat at the table staring at her phone. Is there a point to this information? A pause. I don't know. I thought you should know. Marcus, I appreciate your loyalty. But my mother's emotional state isn't my responsibility. She made choices. I made choices. We all live with the consequences. Understood. How's the Seattle facility coming along? Ahead of schedule. Warehouse management system is fully integrated. First test shipment processed this morning. 0 errors. Good. Schedule a client showcase for next month. Invite every prospect we've talked to in the past quarter. On it. I ended the call and stared out at the city lights below. The rain had returned, drops sliding down the windows, blurring the view. I felt nothing about my mother sitting alone in that restaurant. Not satisfaction, not guilt, not sadness. Just a kind of emptiness where family feelings used to live. Maybe that made me cold. Maybe that made me ruthless. Or maybe it just made me someone who'd learned that survival sometimes means cutting ties, even when those ties are bound in blood. 9 months later, Friday at 9 a.m., the VP International Operations Center displayed nothing but green indicators across all dashboards. Revenue, $27.4 million trailing 12 months, up 53% year over year. Marcus slid the printed financial statement across the conference table. Tanaka Industries represents 58%. Bremen Logistics and Singapore Networks make up most of the rest. I initialed the bottom of the page. Send to the auditors. Schedule Series A investor presentations for next quarter. Jennifer entered, tablet in hand. Breaking news. Pierce Global Trading just announced major restructuring. 35% workforce reduction effective immediately. The room went quiet. Analysts stopped typing. Marcus pulled up the press release on the main screen. Strategic realignment and market repositioning, he read aloud. Stock price down 14% in pre-market trading. I scanned the bullet points. Carefully worded corporate language. No mention of client losses. No admission of contract failures. Another notification appeared. Internal memo from Pierce Global, forwarded by someone still inside. Subject line, Leadership Transition. Natalie Pierce, stepping down as CEO, returning to advisory role. Board appoints interim executive from outside firm. I closed the file. They're stopping the bleeding. Marcus leaned back in his chair. 35% reduction. That's what 280 people? 297, Jennifer corrected. Mostly operations and middle management. Sales team was decimated last quarter. I stood and walked to the window. Mount Hood rose white and massive in the distance, unchanged, eternal. 27 million in new revenue. Nearly 300 jobs eliminated at the family firm. Natalie removed from leadership. I spoke to the glass, my reflection faint against the mountain backdrop. Loyalty only has value when it's reciprocated. The mountain stood silent. The river kept flowing. The numbers kept climbing. That weekend, I received an email from my father. Not a phone call, not a text, an actual email. Subject line, can we talk? The body was brief. Victoria, I know you're busy. I know you're angry. I know I failed you. Can we meet? Just you and me. No agenda. Your dad. I read it 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and went for a run. 10 miles through Forest Park, pushing harder than usual, lungs burning, legs aching. When I got home, I showered, made dinner, and watched a documentary about the history of container shipping. I did not reply to the email. 3 days later, he sent another one. "Please, Victoria, give me an hour." I waited 2 more days, then replied, "Coffee. Saturday morning, 10 a.m., Stumptown on Division. 30 minutes, not an hour." His response came within 5 minutes. "Thank you. I'll be there." Saturday morning, I arrived at Stumptown at 9:55 a.m. The coffee shop was busy, the typical Portland mix of laptop workers, families, and people reading newspapers. I ordered an Americano and found a table in the back corner. My father walked in at 10:02, looking older than I remembered. His hair had gone completely gray. The lines around his eyes were deeper. He ordered his own coffee and sat down across from me. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Thank you for coming," he finally said. "You have 28 minutes now." He nodded, accepting the boundary. I was wrong. About the share transfer. About not intervening when Natalie made her move. About assuming the company could function without your expertise. I was wrong about all of it. Okay, that's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Dad? That I forgive you? That we can go back to how things were? I want you to understand that I never intended to hurt you. I took a sip of my coffee. It was too hot, burned my tongue slightly. Intent doesn't matter. Impact does. You transferred controlling interest to someone with 3 years of real-world experience and zero understanding of the operational realities of international logistics. That wasn't succession planning. That was nepotism and laziness. He flinched. She's your sister. She's also incompetent for the role you gave her, and you knew it. You just didn't want to admit that your younger daughter wasn't ready, so you handed her power and hoped she'd grow into it. She didn't. The company is collapsing because of it. It's not collapsing. It's not thriving either. 14% stock decline. 35% workforce reduction. Half your major clients gone. That's not realignment, Dad. That's failure. He was quiet for a long time, staring into his coffee. Can you come back? We could restructure. Give you equity. Make you co-CEO with an outside executive. Rebuild what was lost. Number. Just no? You won't even consider it? I've built something that can't be taken away by a family vote. I've built something where my expertise is valued and compensated appropriately. I've built something that's mine. Why would I walk away from that to return to a place that fired me? We didn't fire you. We restructured. Don't play semantic games with me. You removed me from my position. That's termination, regardless of what you call it in the press release. He looked up at me, and I saw something in his eyes that looked like genuine regret. Maybe it was real. Maybe it was manipulation. I'd stopped being able to tell the difference. Your mother misses you, he said quietly. My mother chose Natalie over me. She made that choice willingly. She can live with it. It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You both decided I was expendable. I proved you wrong. End of story. He reached across the table like he was going to touch my hand, then thought better of it. You're still my daughter, and you're still my father. But that doesn't change the fact that you betrayed me professionally. Family and business got tangled up, and you chose wrong. I'm not interested in untangling it now. So that's it? We just never speak again? I checked my watch. Your 30 minutes are up. I stood, grabbed my coat from the back of the chair. I don't hate you, Dad. I just don't trust you, and I don't need you. Those are very different things. I walked out of the coffee shop into the cold November morning. He didn't follow me. 6 months after that meeting, I received a certified letter at the VP International office, official letterhead, Pierce Global Trading. Inside was a formal proposal for a strategic partnership, They wanted to license my customs optimization software. They wanted to subcontract their remaining international clients to my operation. They wanted to pay me consulting fees for the expertise they'd thrown away. The proposal was detailed, professionally written, clearly drafted by expensive attorneys. It offered generous terms: 20-year licensing agreement, guaranteed minimum payments, revenue sharing on new clients. It was designed to look like a partnership, but it was really a lifeline. They needed me to survive. I read the entire document twice, standing at my desk, the city spread out below me. Then I called an all-hands meeting. Every employee, from analysts to senior management, gathered in the operations center. 28 people now, growing every month. Pierce Global Trading has sent us a partnership proposal, I said, holding up the document. They want to license our software. They want us to handle their overflow. They want to pay us to save them from the consequences of their own mistakes. The room was silent, everyone watching me. I'm going to decline it, I continued, not because I'm petty, not because I want revenge, but because accepting it would make us dependent on a failing company. It would tie our growth to their survival. And I didn't build this company to be anyone's life raft. Scattered applause started, then grew. Marcus was grinning. Jennifer nodded approvingly. We're going to keep building, I said. We're going to keep winning clients on our own merit. We're going to keep growing at our own pace. And if Pierce Global Trading collapses, which it might, that's not our problem to solve. After the meeting, Jennifer came to my office. You know this is going to burn that bridge completely. That bridge burned 18 months ago when they terminated me. This just makes it official. Your parents are adults who made adult choices. I'm making mine. She nodded slowly. For what it's worth, I think you're right. Getting entangled with them now would be a strategic mistake. Draft a formal decline letter, professional, brief, and final. No explanation beyond we're pursuing a different strategic direction. On it. The letter went out the next day. I didn't hear back from Pierce Global Trading. But 3 days later, my father called my cell phone. I let it go to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. He called again the next day. Again, no message. On the third day, I answered. What do you want, Dad? You declined the proposal. I did. Without even a conversation? There was nothing to discuss. It's not a good fit for our strategic direction. Strategic direction? Victoria, this is your family's company, was. Past tense. It was my family's company. Now it's just a company. And not one I'm interested in partnering with. You're really going to let it fail? I'm not letting anything happen. You built a company. You made decisions about that company. Those decisions had consequences. I'm not responsible for managing those consequences. This is spite. No, this is business. If you can't tell the difference, that explains a lot about why you're in the position you're in. Don't talk to me like I'm a child. Then don't act like one. You made your bed, Dad. Sleep in it. I ended the call. He didn't call back. 2 years had passed since I walked out of that conference room. VP International now employed 412 people across 7 locations in 4 states. Annual revenue crossed $80 million last quarter. We were in discussions with 3 private equity firms about a potential acquisition that would value the company somewhere between $280 and $320 million, depending on the structure. Jennifer had negotiated the preliminary terms with all 3 firms. We were leaning toward a firm called Cascade Capital Partners. They understood the logistics industry, had a track record of supporting growth rather than slashing costs, and offered terms that would keep me as CEO with full operational control for at least 5 years post-acquisition. The due diligence process was intensive. They examined every contract, every client relationship, every piece of proprietary technology. They interviewed key employees. They toured every facility. They stress-tested our financial projections. And at the end of it all, they came back with a firm offer, $305 million. 80% cash, 20% Cascade equity. I'd retain 35% ownership in the post-acquisition entity, with the rest distributed among employees, early investors, and Cascade. I called another all-hands meeting. This time we had too many people to fit in the operations center, so we rented a hotel ballroom. Over 400 people filled the space, chatting, laughing, wondering what the announcement would be. I walked to the front of the room, and the noise died down. 2 years ago, I said, my voice carrying through the sound system, this company didn't exist. It was just an idea, a legal structure, and a lot of hope. Today, we employ 412 people. We generate $80 million in annual revenue. We serve clients across 4 countries. And we've just received a formal acquisition offer from Cascade Capital Partners. The room erupted. People stood, applauded, some cheered. I let it go for a moment, then raised my hand for quiet. The offer values our company at $305 million, I continued. Subject to board approval and employee vote, we'll be accepting it. Every person in this room who has equity will see a substantial payout. Every person in this room will keep their job with improved benefits and continued growth opportunities. This is what we built together. More applause, louder this time. Marcus was in the front row, grinning so wide I thought his face might split. Jennifer stood beside him, looking professional but with tears in her eyes. The operations managers, the analysts, the attorneys, the warehouse supervisors, everyone who'd taken a chance on this company, they were all celebrating. After the meeting, after the champagne toast, after the handshakes and congratulations, I found myself alone in my office. It was late, nearly 10 p.m. The city lights sparkled below, reflecting off the river. I pulled up the Portland Business Journal website out of curiosity. Their homepage had a breaking news banner. Pierce Global Trading Files for Chapter 11, Bankruptcy Protection. I clicked the article. Voluntary restructuring. Unable to meet debt obligations. Seeking buyer for remaining assets. Court-supervised reorganization. All the standard language of a company in terminal decline. The article mentioned my father's name once, noting that he'd stepped down as chairman 6 months earlier. Natalie's name didn't appear at all. I should have felt something. Satisfaction, maybe. Vindication, something. But sitting there in my office, staring at that bankruptcy notice, I felt nothing. Just a kind of hollow neutrality. They'd made their choices. I'd made mine. The market had rendered its judgment. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I saw the news about your acquisition. Congratulations. You earned it. Andrew, my ex-husband. I smiled slightly. At least someone from my past could celebrate my success without baggage attached. I typed back, "Thank you. Hope you're doing well." His response came quickly. "Very. Just closed a development project in Beaverton. Life is good. Glad to hear it. You free for coffee sometime?" "No agenda, just catching up." I thought about it. "Sure, next month. Things are chaotic right now. Sounds good. Proud of you, Victoria." I set my phone down and returned to the bankruptcy article. The comments section was already filling up with speculation, with industry insiders sharing theories about what went wrong. Several comments mentioned my departure. One person wrote, they pushed out their only competent executive and wondered why everything fell apart. Another wrote, Victoria Pierce saw this coming and got out while she could. A third wrote, this is what happens when family loyalty trumps business competence. I closed the browser. Let them speculate. Let them analyze. Let them create whatever narrative made sense to them. I knew the truth. I'd built something valuable. They'd taken it for granted. I'd walked away with what was mine, and they'd collapsed without it. Simple cause and effect. No villains, no heroes, just choices and consequences. The Cascade acquisition closed 4 months later. The wire transfer hit my personal account on a Tuesday morning. $92 million after taxes, legal fees, and distributions to early stakeholders. I stared at the number on my phone screen for a full minute, trying to make it feel real. It didn't. It was just digits, abstract representation of value. I went to work that day like any other day, attended meetings, reviewed contracts, made strategic decisions. Nobody treated me differently. The culture we'd built wasn't about ego or hierarchy, it was about excellence and execution. The money changed nothing about how we operated. That evening, I drove to Forest Park and went for a long run on my favorite trail. 6 miles in, I stopped at a viewpoint overlooking the city. The sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and purple. The river wound through downtown, dark and steady. Somewhere down there, Pierce Global Trading's lawyers were negotiating the bankruptcy terms. Somewhere down there, my parents were dealing with the public humiliation of corporate failure. Somewhere down there, Natalie was probably trying to rebuild her reputation after her very public executive failure. And up here, I was free. Free from family expectations, free from corporate politics, free from the weight of a legacy that was never really mine to carry. I'd built something new, something that belonged entirely to me and the people who'd believed in the vision. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. Because here's what I learned through all of this. Revenge isn't about destruction. It's not about making other people fail. It's about refusing to let their limitations become yours. It's about building something so successful, so undeniable, that their decision to dismiss you becomes the defining mistake of their career. It's about proving, through action rather than words, that you were never the problem. They were. My parents sent a card to my new address about a month after the acquisition closed. No return address, but I recognized my mother's handwriting. Inside was a simple note. "We're proud of you, even if we never said it enough. We're sorry for everything. Love, Mom and Dad." I kept the card. I didn't respond to it. Maybe someday I will. Maybe someday the anger will fade enough to allow for reconciliation. But not today. Today, I'm still building, still growing, still proving that the daughter they dismissed is the executive they needed. 3 years have passed now since that board meeting. VP International is approaching $200 million in annual revenue under Cascade's ownership. We've expanded into European markets, opened facilities in Germany and Poland, acquired 2 smaller competitors, and pioneered new optimization algorithms that are becoming industry standard. I'm still CEO, still driving strategy, still building something that matters. Pierce Global Trading emerged from bankruptcy last year, purchased by a private equity firm that stripped it for parts. The Portland headquarters was sold to a tech company. The Pierce family name was removed from everything. My parents retired to a house on the coast. Natalie moved to Denver and started a consulting practice. We don't speak. We don't exchange holiday cards anymore. We're strangers who happen to share DNA. And that's okay. Some relationships don't survive betrayal. Some wounds don't heal. Some bridges once burned stay burned. That's not tragedy. That's just reality. I don't wish them harm. I don't celebrate their failures. I simply don't think about them unless I'm telling this story. Because the story isn't really about them. It's about me. It's about recognizing my own value when others couldn't. It's about having the courage to walk away from something comfortable but toxic. It's about building something from nothing because I knew I could. It's about proving to myself, not to them, that I was capable of more than they ever imagined. The river keeps flowing. Mount Hood keeps standing. The numbers keep climbing. And I keep building, one contract at a time, one relationship at a time, one decision at a time. This is my company. This is my success. This is my life, lived on my terms, answerable to my standards, reaching for my definition of success. Last week, I spoke at a women's business leadership conference in Seattle. 500 attendees, mostly women who'd faced their own professional betrayals, their own family disappointments, their own moments of being dismissed and underestimated. After my keynote during the question and answer session, a woman in her 40s stood up and asked, "How do you let go of the anger?" I thought about it for a moment. "You don't let it go," I said. "You transform it. You take that fire and you forge something with it. You build something so successful that the anger becomes irrelevant, not because you've forgotten, but because you've transcended. The best revenge isn't hurting the people who hurt you. It's building a life so fulfilling that their opinion stops mattering." She nodded, tears in her eyes. After the session ended, she waited to speak with me privately. "My brother pushed me out of our family restaurant," she said. "Told me I was too emotional, too weak to handle the pressure. That was 5 years ago. I started a catering company. He filed for bankruptcy last month. And I still feel guilty." "The guilt is them winning," I told her. "They don't deserve that power over you. They made a choice. You made a different choice. Your choice worked. Their choice didn't. You don't owe them rescue. You don't owe them guilt. You owe yourself permission to succeed without apology." She hugged me, held on for a long moment. Then she stepped back, wiped her eyes, and said, "Thank you." "Thank you," I said back. Because she reminded me why I tell this story. Not for vindication, not for sympathy, but for the other people out there who've been dismissed, betrayed, underestimated by people who should have supported them. For the people who need to know it's possible to walk away and build something better. For the people who need permission to choose themselves. Today, I'm 37 years old. I run a company worth over $400 million in enterprise value. I employ over 600 people across 9 countries. I've been featured in Forbes, Fortune, and Bloomberg. I've spoken at conferences on 5 continents. And none of it, absolutely none of it, would have happened if my family hadn't pushed me out of that company 3 years ago. So in a strange way, I'm grateful. Not to them exactly, but grateful for the catalyst. Grateful for the moment of clarity that showed me I'd been playing too small, thinking too limited, accepting too little. They thought they were ending my career. Instead, they freed me to start my real one. The river never forgets. It flows around obstacles, carves new paths, reshapes the landscape over time. It doesn't fight the rocks in its way. It simply becomes something else, something stronger, something unstoppable. That's what I did. That's what anyone can do when faced with betrayal. You don't fight them on their terms. You flow around them. You create new channels. You reshape the landscape until they're just another rock in a river that's moved on. And that's the real ending to this story. Not bankruptcy filings or acquisition announcements or revenue numbers. The real ending is this. I'm free. I'm building. I'm thriving. And the people who tried to diminish me are just memories now, fading a little more each day, becoming less significant with every success I achieve. This is Revenge Stories with Michelle, a home for quiet courage and true endings. If you feel my words, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Your voice matters here. Your story matters too. Because somewhere out there, someone is sitting in a conference room, being dismissed by people who should support them, wondering if they have the strength to walk away and start over. And I want them to know, you do. You absolutely do. The river never forgets, and neither should you. Thank you for listening to my story. Now go write yours.